If I had a list of what I consider to be some of my favorite Disney movies, I would confidently say that Lilo and Stitch is damn near the top. It's one of those movies where no matter how many times I revisit it, I grow even more of an appreciation for it than I did before. I love this movie so much that I could do an entire video analysis on the original or even its underrated sequel, and it still wouldn't do it enough justice. So then what the hell's this video about? If it's not about the movie or the TV show or the godforsaken live action remakes you've heard just about enough of, then what is it? Stitch hijacked an airplane? Like every animated movie, Lilo and Stitch went through many significant changes during its production that would have potentially made, for lack of a less cliche way to put it, a completely different film than the one that came out. And no, I don't mean reskinning a dryer into a cabinet with a pizza box for Disney Plus releases. I mean different in that in an alternate universe, Gantu was given more screen time, Jumba ignites a gas leak, oh, and they almost did 9/11, and at the time never before seen documentary, and a bunch of scenes that were either heavily altered or removed entirely were included as bonus content on the 2-disc special edition Disney DVD, which I highly recommend checking out if you own it or if you seek it. Just to preface this though, I don't want this video to completely replace all of that good stuff you could be looking into, whether it be on the DVD or Google if you're a cheater, like me. I just think this stuff's pretty neat to talk about, and thought it'd make for a short but sweet little video that really makes you appreciate the hard work that goes into making these movies a reality. Now that's where the real magic from the movie is made. So instead of ruining your day, Mr. Stardweeb is about to make your day as I dive into the unused concepts of Lilo and Stitch. Though I might need to abandon the idea of releasing this video on June 26, 2026, or 626-2026. And would you look at that, a short film just got announced in between all that time it took for me to say that. In no particular order, for the most part, we have an entirely different version of the opening trial scene, where instead of being in prison just for existing, Stitch is convicted of multiple acts of terrorism on another planet. Oh god, too soon. According to co-director Dean Dubois, this would eventually change, as they thought it'd make more sense if Jumba were on trial instead, since, well, he was Stitch's creator after all. You can't just shoot someone with a gun and then blame it on the gun, now can you? But he's not a gun, so you gotta do something about him after all the shit he said. Wait, what was that thing he said? Oh, okay. What's interesting about this is on the back of the aforementioned DVD, you can see an unused screenshot that originates from this exact scene. So, you know, that's cool to point out. While we're still here, I may as well briefly acknowledge this movie's 29-page pitch book, made by Chris Sanders himself. While there were plenty of changes made to what we'd see in the final release, most notably for now was that Stitch was originally meant to lead an intergalactic gang, with 3 other squad mates that would take part in his hooliganism, and instead of a mad scientist, Jumba would have been Stitch's former crewmate, hired to capture him for being left behind during a bank heist. After a test screening of this early concept, they couldn't figure out how to implement Stitch's gang into the story, so they were eventually removed. Besides, Roy E. Disney, the chairman at the time, much preferred when Stitch had that childlike sensibility, as he starts understanding the concept of Ohana and going beyond his destructive nature, which was why he became the genetic experiment 626, and presumably why they had to remove his heinous actions from the opening trial. Like, I'm pretty sure his kill count here was in the dozens, so yeah, I can totally understand why the council reacted so harshly. Ages 9 and up, it's the LEGO Disney trademark Stitch set with 730 pieces. The next deleted scene, named Bedtime Story, takes place after an unsuccessful visit from Cobra Bubbles. It presents Lilo telling Nani a bedtime story rather than vice versa. It's basically a story about this bear named Toaster, who smelt bad, like really bad, which was actually a roundabout way of Lilo apologizing for misbehaving, while also making a subtle nod to her deceased mother.
Did you call the rabbit store yet?
Yeah. They said I could get 20 rabbits if I traded you.
I'm worth 20 rabbits? You didn't call the rabbit store.
It's a sweet little moment, though they had to change it because apparently test audiences mistook Nani as Lilo's mom, which made them yelling at one another look even more uncomfortable. So they rewrote the dialogue to clarify their familial relationship, on top of removing the bedtime story altogether. Side note, I know this isn't exclusive to the scene, but I really do love Daveigh Chase's performance here. In general, she's always had such a natural portrayal of a little girl struggling to cope with her family potentially falling apart, and her voice acting elevates that. God bless her soul. The following deleted scene, Gantu's challenge, takes place sometime after the councilwoman hires Jumba and Pleakley to track down Stitch on Earth. Initially, I passed this off as expository dialogue that had to be cut since, well, most of this information stated here was already established in the beginning. But then it dawned on me. Had this scene been added, it would have actually given Captain Gantu a lot more prominence in the story. Obviously, he was already important as the movie's villain, but truth be told, he was never given a whole lot of screen time in the final cut. After Jumba and Pleakley get terminated, the councilwoman decides to let Gantu finish the job, and it's like an hour in where he finally gets a chance to shine, and when he fails the mission, he gets terminated, whereas originally, he would volunteer in capturing Stitch himself, but gets denied, further prompting him to disobey council orders and hunt him down on his own.
I'd like to keep this trip classified.
Don't want the old lady finding out, huh?
You could say that.
This honestly would have made way more sense as to why he'd be retired from the council so soon, and also existence, assuming they remake this film in live action, which they did. Besides, he also endangered a child, so that's another charge added on. Otherwise, I kinda wish they kept this in the movie. Oh well, at least he is in the TV series a lot more prominently. The next one, Mayhem at the Beach, features Lilo and Stitch wandering about their little town.
Hey, speak English? Which way to the beach?
Oh, that's a little problematic, Shoot. Lilo gets tired of seeing these dumbass tourists asking stupid questions, so she decides to fuck around with them by causing a tsunami scare. When the siren eventually goes off, everybody books it, with Cobra Bubbles being the only one left standing.
If you lived here, you'd understand.
This is another scene I wish was in the movie, not just because it's funny, but because, like the rest of it, feels like it came from a genuine place.
Does girl control ocean?
While it was never the focus of the story, Lilo and Stitch has always had that subtle critique of tourism, American tourism, albeit here it was a lot more blatant. Let's just say that there's a good reason why Lilo takes photos of random fat-ass tourists. It's basically her way of saying, okay, you're just gonna take photos of my home and look at me like a fucking zoo animal, huh?
Oh look, a real native!
Alright, you know what? Say cheese. How do you like that? You're going on my wall. This isn't even exclusive to the first film. This subtle commentary also carries over to the sequels. There's this one bully character, I think her name was Myrtle, who uses her hula dance as a literal advertisement for her dad's store using supposedly authentic Hawaiian stuff. Now, where I come from, young lady, this is called cultural appropriation. Look it up. And God only knows Disney wouldn't have wanted this scene to be in the movie, especially in this day and age. We don't want to scare away potential guests of the Disneyland Resort and Spa, now don't we? Alright, before I talk about the next three scenes, I'm just gonna pull a Donkey Kong 64 and backtrack to the very beginning. That pitch book I mentioned earlier, that was my Chekhov's gun. In the early to mid 1980s, director Chris Sanders had an idea for a children's book about a strange monster in the forest that ultimately fell through. And just so we're in the clear, this was an early development sketch of the Stitch we know today. And this was Stitch in 1984.
Yep, it's a pretty fucked up looking dog.
It was already enough that people were scared shitless of the little guy in the movie, but no matter how many times you twist it, there would be absolutely no way that this dude would be mistaken for a dog. A sick-ass design, sure, but can you imagine if this was what Stitch became? We would have gotten plushies and Funko Pops of this motherfucker, but back on topic. During his days as a storyboard artist, Chris would revive the project in 1997 as a feature film at Disney in a cost-effective move to make something akin to Dumbo, a film that's significantly less grand in scope, but enough to belong with the Disney classics. As he changed the story from being set in a forest with woodland animals to being set in Hawaii with a little girl, he spent 3 straight days in a Palm Springs hotel writing and drawing a 29-page book that serves as a treatment of sorts. This pitch would be greenlit on the condition that they animate the movie in his unique art style. I would say the rest is history, but that'd be disregarding how surprisingly dark this was compared to the movie we got. In this book, Jumba was gonna be a bounty hunter and looked like this. Lilo takes Stitch to her mother's grave, Stitch almost dies, and unlike the final version where Lilo convinces the councilwoman to keep Stitch, showing her his adoption paper, here, she did not give a fuck. She just crumbles that shit, and despite all the shit that transpired in the story, like Stitch rescuing Lilo, she still goes by that whole "I didn't see it, so therefore it never happened" mentality. So Pleakley has to put his foot down and basically tell her, Hey, look, here's my badge. I work with this agency, and I saw what happened. So, you know, fuck you. This was gonna be a very different film than what your dad would have seen when he was 9. I mean, no shit, right? Like, last time I checked, I don't remember Stitch building a damn giant robot that wreaks havoc. While the basis is still present, Stitch still learns the value of family, but needless to say, some ideas made it further past the concept phase than others. Though we almost had Stitch use Lilo as a human shield at one point. What the fuck?
This is low even for you!
Okay, now to talk about these scenes in a particular order. The following scenes are what I consider to be the big 3 of this movie's deleted scenes. Easily the most well-known deleted scenes that were either too dark, too violent, or too, to be featured in the final release, or at least in the way that they were. Such as the case with this alternate version of When Jumba Attacks, which was changed because the test audience deemed it too violent. As if it wasn't different enough by having Jumba actually use his gun to shoot up the place like a psychopath, seemingly showing no remorse in— wait a minute. Oh no. No. Wait. As if that wasn't different enough, you at home may have already noticed, but you could actually pinpoint a certain element of the story being changed simply by looking at Jumba himself. At multiple points, especially in the 3rd act, Jumba's model completely changes, where he goes from looking relatively normal in one shot to having this Shrek 5-ass redesign in the next. I have no clue if they just lost the original model or if they didn't have enough time, but regardless, they made the sequence a lot goofier with little banter between the two, with Jumba using an unconventionally silly Swiss Army knife. The biggest change, however, was near the end, where instead of Stitch jamming his gun with a carrot, Jumba lights up a fucking gas leak and destroys the entire house. Holy shit. There's even a shot of Lilo staring at the destruction that was ultimately cut from the film. Honestly, while the action is way more felt in this original version, I don't know, I always found their back and forth arguing really funny. I'm probably biased, but hey, at least he didn't make any dumbass quips while sounding like Humpty Dumpty, alright? The next one is arguably the most documented and infamous scene never made for a Disney film. Its only competition for such a prestigious position are either the shock collars in Zootopia, decaying corpses in the Black Cauldron, or Woody being the biggest douchebag on the planet. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the 747 sequence. This scene would have played out almost exactly like how it did in the final release, with Stitch and company on their way to rescue Lilo, though just like that one Ice Spice song, it ain't no jellyfish, but there's a catch. I am never referencing that song again. Initially, to achieve this, they would have arrived at an airport to hijack a Tsunami Air Boeing 747. I reiterate, they hijacked a Tsunami Air Boeing 747 in a bid to save Lilo from Gantu. They careened through multiple towers in Honolulu in an epic chase scene where Jumba pulls a day watch grind on a building and launches Stitch out the exit. On top of all of this, that one guy still keeps losing his damn ice cream. My friends, do I even need to explain why this was omitted? This was made during fall of 2001. Despite all the animation work, it could not have been made at a worse time. And even besides the uncanny parallels to 9/11, there was also one teensy little problem they completely overlooked. How the hell did Jumba and Pleakley even get to Earth? I don't think they would have walked all the way there, you know? The filmmakers realized this, deciding to take it upon themselves to make sure this scene wasn't in poor taste, and to patch an easily fixable plot hole, that being the irony of space aliens stealing an airplane when they had a big-ass spaceship parked in the jungle the whole time, which just so happened to have been that same Boeing 747, but remodeled. This scene was animated late in production, as you can tell by our good old friend here, and Honolulu was changed into a mountain range, so you don't have to worry about them potentially putting lives at risk. It's all just a rock. The best part of all of this is that this was only the second version of the 747 sequence. There's an even earlier version that's almost the same, but somehow even crazier. Instead of Gantu, Lilo would have been kidnapped by a member of Stitch's squad. It would have been a straight-up aerial dogfight where a ticking time bomb occurs in the form of Gantu ordering to launch missiles at Stitch. The cherry on top of this batshit crazy sundae? They make it even more apparent that they're using those skyscrapers as shields. This dude's name was gonna be Chugag, by the way. That sounds like the name of a racist glup shitto. So yeah, they were a little too soon on this, I will say. While I can't imagine how pissed off an animator must have been that they spent all that animation work just for it to go nowhere, at least it was for a good cause, even though that one tourist guy still can't catch a break. And now, we've made it to our final deleted scene. There were probably more scenes cut from this film that aren't on the DVD nor online. They could be in the Disney vault for all I know. But for now, I figured I'd save the most depressing and devastating scene for last. I really tried thinking of any other proper way to conclude this video, but alas, talking about this scene in particular was quite possibly the best way to do so. This was the untimely death of Pudge the fish. Anyone who's seen the movie knows that our very first introduction to Lilo is through a fish holding a peanut butter sandwich in its mouth. We learn that Lilo feeds this fish a sandwich, believing it controls the weather. An out-of-pocket statement at first, but it all starts to make sense once she tells Stitch about her dead parents. You're able to piece together all the hints they give as to how they died, and how Lilo took her feeding Pudge very seriously. While Pudge was mainly there to establish an aspect of Lilo's personality, this unused scene would have been his only other appearance in the movie, albeit for a much darker reason. This scene begins with Lilo introducing Stitch to Pudge the fish. Just as you'd think this moment would be wholesome stuff, he smacks the fish right out of her hands, and it gets pecked to death by a flock of seagulls. Despite Lilo's cries for help, Stitch just sits there and does nothing. He just laughs. After the chaos ends, Lilo punches Stitch and says this.
What's wrong with you?
Huh?
Pudge was part of our family. You don't let your family die. You don't ever.
In a moment of silence, with the one thing that kept her ohana safe gone, Lilo takes in Pudge for burial. If that didn't hit you hard enough, Stitch follows her out of curiosity, looks beside him, and sees her bury the fish right next to her parents' graves. For the first time in his life, Stitch finally understands empathy. He realizes that his action put someone Lilo held dearly in harm's way, and so, as he stands aside, ashamed of what he did, Lilo asks,
You didn't do it on purpose, did you?
This would have genuinely been such a powerful moment, just as much, if not even more so than what we have in the movie, since Stitch was created for nothing more than to cause chaos and put people in harm's way. This scene would have shown that when he does inevitably inflict such pain on others, he begins to grasp what emotions are, and what he did was wrong. His actions do have consequences, but ultimately that's his only purpose for existing. Now, it's pretty easy to see why they scrapped this. I mean, if I were a kid, this scene would have fucked me up for real. But as is, it sucks that this never made the cut. It seemed like a moment that would have held a lot of nuance to both Lilo and Stitch's character. And let's be honest, much like the rest of the movie, it hits differently now than it already did before. You know why. On June 16th, 2026, Daveigh Chase, the actress who played Samara in The Ring, Chihiro in the English dub of Spirited Away, and of course, the actress who voiced Lilo in almost everything in the franchise, tragically passed away at age 35, following health issues and addiction. There is nothing more heartbreaking in the world than losing a life at such a young age. Granted, she was only in her mid-30s, but that's still way too soon of an age to go. Thank you, Daveigh Chase. You not only voiced an iconic main character in a Disney film, but you also defined childhood. Now it's gonna be even more devastating rewatching this movie. Instead of Lilo offering Pudge the peanut butter sandwich for her parents, now Stitch has to carry that mantle for Lilo, because without Lilo, there is no Stitch. Without Lilo, he would have never belonged. Without Lilo, he would have never found Ohana.
Ohana means family. Family means
Nobody gets left behind.
Or
or forgotten. I know.